It's February, that means it is Black History Month.
And this is commUNITY.
I'm Claudine Ewing.
And I'm Pete Gallivan, and we are here at the Niagara Falls Underground Railroad Heritage Center. And I can't believe we're joined by Claudine, and I can't believe it's been 7 years since you guys opened.
It's about 7 years.
It seems like we were just here
Yesterday?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just crazy. Can you believe it's been? It had to have gone fast for you.
Oh yeah, a lot of change has changed since that time.
Tell us about what's changed.
Wow. So, we've all weathered that storm of the pandemic, and we were able to successfully transition a lot of our programming into virtual programming, and we've been able to offer that to not just local audiences, but people from around the globe. So we've been able to, change a little bit of the way in which we do things and adapt to some of those changes.
Black history is so important. We know what's happening in the world. We don't have to repeat it. But how are you ensuring that Black history is not forgotten?
I think framing it as American history. And I think if you frame it as American history, which it is, then we see that as equally as important as any other stories and history that we tell in our public schools, our private schools, and just in the general public.
Yeah, world history for that matter. What's the biggest lesson you've learned, the biggest thing you've taken away from watching this get off the ground and take flight?
Well, I think just focusing on the stories of everyday people doing the extraordinary. Everyday people are able to connect to those stories because it's a human story. And I think we highlight people like John Morrison and Cecilia Reynolds and many of the other people that people are just completely unaware of in terms of this rich history here in Niagara Falls. They're able to take something away from those stories of everyday people and begin to look in their own family backgrounds and find those same type of stories in terms of people who are seeking freedom.
Why are you so dedicated to this?
For one, it's just a part of my legacy. I am a descendant of a famous freedom seeker by the name of Josiah Henson, and I'm thankful to have the type of family dynamics that raised me with that appreciation of that history. So this is something that I take a lot of pride and ownership in.
So this has been a journey of discovery for you as well, I would imagine.
Always.
What is
Always.
the biggest thing you've learned about yourself and your family in diving into this head first?
That there's never enough for you to know. I tell children all of the time, we all have two parents, which means we have 4 grandparents and we have 8 great-grandparents, and you keep going back and you're going to get into the thousands of people who have thousands of stories that literally contributed to who you are. And there's never enough time for you to be able to learn about all of those people that came before you, the importance of their sacrifices and the decisions that they made, and why you are actually here as a person.
Yeah, and also that weird uncle that no one wants to talk about that story, so.
Absolutely.
And as we wrap up, I'm just thinking, because it's Black History Month, are you seeing more people come to the center because they want to learn more? And when you look at their faces, are they a little bit in awe?
Absolutely. Not only people locally, because this is local history that many people don't even know, but seeing the faces of people that come from all across the nation and from other countries to learn about the importance of these stories, and then to have that aha moment where they begin to think about their own family members and the connections of the stories that we're sharing here is something that, it brings a smile to my face every time I see it.
Yeah, it's about the human spirit.
Absolutely.
Always a pleasure to speak with you on
Thank
commUNITY.
you.
We appreciate it.
You too. Thank you.
So the first place that the members would have worshiped would have been in the sanctuary. The first place that any new freedom seekers welcomed to the city of Buffalo, they would have been sheltered in the sanctuary.
Footsteps, once again welcomed inside the Michigan Street Baptist Church.
The church has been restored to the way that it looked in the early 1800s.
If these walls could talk, the stories they'd tell. Instead, chair of the Buffalo Niagara Freedom Station Coalition, Lily Wiley Upshaw, taking on the job.
This church was founded by freedom seekers who came to the city of Buffalo to create for themselves a new life. And there's a long history of activism of people who were a part of this church, and what we're doing today is sharing all that history.
The historic church, a landmark in Buffalo for about 200 years, opening their doors to the public for the first time since closing for renovations. Tourgoers today amongst the first to experience the new changes, though the history anything but new.
So some people who were in the church in the past are just completely amazed at the transformation. For other people this is their first time visiting here, they are completely mesmerized by listening and absorbing the history of the church.
And for Rachel Henderson,
it means so much to me because it would have meant so much to him.
daughter of Bishop William Henderson, longtime pastor of the church who passed in 2021, the reopening marking a new step in carrying on a legacy.
I think my favorite part about today has been people and what the questions they ask.
This is like a living canvas. The artwork is done on the bus, of course, but I think the impact on how the community responds to it is still being painted as this campaign moves forward.
Artist Jalen Law is talking about his work that's now featured on a NFTA bus. Crystal Edwards from the NFTA says she created a citywide competition to select a local artist.
I wanted to find a way to incorporate our community along with celebrating Black History Month. So we developed an art contest to make sure that the community was involved and so they could see a bus like this in the streets every single day.
Awe-inspiring to be able to come out here and to share this moment with the public, the city of Buffalo, the residents of the city of Buffalo.
Before, you could sit anywhere on the bus, but now one seat is reserved not for a passenger, but for a civil rights icon.
Right, so Rosa Parks was a very courageous woman. She was a strong Black lady.
A very inspirational woman.
It's a seat no one could take, but everyone can see.
She was tired.
This black and white sign marks the spot where Rosa Parks' legacy now lives on NFTA buses and paratransits. For the first time ever, the NFTA is reserving a seat on every bus to honor the woman who nearly 70 years ago refused to give up her seat, sparking a movement for racial equality.
She wouldn't get out of her seat for nobody, no matter what color it was. That was her seat. She paid to get on the bus. That's where she sat, so that's where she's supposed to sit.
Some passengers say they've noticed people respecting the seat, while others are still learning why it's there.
People who get on the bus, like all of us, we all don't even sit there. And if people do sit there, somebody's like, hey, don't sit there, it's just, for respects for her. It's a nice history moment.
The NFTA joins other transit agencies across the country in dedicating a seat to Rosa Parks, keeping her story alive for future generations.
As we get older, we forget stuff, but when we see stuff like that, like momentums and like that, we're like, oh yeah, I remember learning about her. Keeps it alive.
The NFTA says the tribute is here to stay throughout the entire Black History Month, ensuring every ride is a reminder of the woman who made it possible.
Chairman and CEO of M&T Bank, Renee Jones, ringing the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange in honor of Black History Month on February 3rd. He was joined by M&T executives, senior leadership, and partners, including David Hollis, Glenn Jackson, and Krista Phillips. The bell ringing celebrated the contributions and achievements of the Black community while also honoring the legacy of Black history and Black culture. The group of M&T senior leaders are empowering diverse voices across the bank. Partners from Carver Bank and the Jackie Robinson Foundation were also there for helping to advance educational and economic opportunities within the Black community.
Coming up next on Community, Breaking the Ice
With Jordan Greenway.
Yeah, we're going to introduce you to this trailblazer who broke new ground in the Olympic arena.
Welcome back to Community. And now we're going to talk a little bit of hockey.
Yeah, you know him as number 12 for the Buffalo Sabres, Jordan Greenway. Yeah, well, before he was with the Sabres, he was a trailblazer in the Olympic arena, the very first African-American to ever play for a U.S. Olympic hockey team.
Call him a trailblazer.
It's definitely an honor, huge honor.
I don't think it's fully set in like maybe it will a couple years into the future.
Just as Willie O'Ree broke the NHL's color barrier decades before with the Boston Bruins, Sabres forward Jordan Greenway also opened the door for players of color. In 2018, he became the first black player to be named to a U.S. Olympic hockey team.
Just being able to go to the Olympics playing for Team USA alone is, a tremendous accomplishment, a tremendous honor for myself. And then, being the first African American to make that team is, I guess even tops it off even more.
Jordan and his younger brother JD were raised by a white family in a predominantly white community of Canton, New York. He says while he played other sports, hockey quickly became his passion. From youth hockey right up to his days at Boston University, his color was never a consideration.
My coaches, my teammates, the parents, whatever the case is, for the most part, looked at me as a hockey player. Or that's, kind of how I saw it.
That's not to say he wasn't aware. His mother always taught him to be proud of his African American heritage and the hurdles that could be out there.
At an early age, they, kind of prepared us for what could possibly come. Comments, actions, whatever the case is. So we were definitely aware of it, but I didn't feel a ton of pressure growing up, to be completely honest with you.
It helps when you're the biggest and best guy.
That does help. That does help. But I will say at the same time, I do understand that is out there for other kids.
So now, as he works hard to return from an injury and continue his dream of being an NHL hockey player, Jordan Greenway knows he leads by example. He understands that there are plenty of kids out there looking to him and saying, if he can do it, why not me?
My goal throughout the entire experience has just been to try and, allow kids who maybe, look like me to feel as if it's okay to go out and play a sport that typically you don't see many players of color.
And he's landed in a great place to continue that message. The Buffalo Sabres, over their 55 years of existence, have suited up 15 black players, more than any other team in the entire National Hockey League.
Through all the lanes, inside this bowling alley in Cheektowaga,
You going into there?
Desron Weatherspoon's passion for the game is in every play.
My mother got me into the game, and I've loved it ever since.
That love has grown since he was 10 years old.
Wow, that's crazy.
So when he showed up to bowl a couple of weeks ago, he was expecting it to be like any other.
I threw the first 300, and I've thrown a couple 300s already, so that wasn't nothing out of the ordinary.
But that was just the beginning.
But then the shot just continued being great. So I didn't move, I didn't change anything. I just kept doing my regular routine. And then after that, I threw the next 300.
Now on to a third game with perfection on the line.
What we're searching for is break point, where the ball is gonna break and actually start its hook. And what ball actually feels good. It seemed like time might as well stopped because, especially with everybody being done bowling, it's just me.
And it all came down to that final frame.
To see it actually strike, it was pandemonium.
36 strikes in a row. That's something that doesn't happen often.
I'm the 40th certified 900 series bowler.
Not right now.
Nationally. I'm the second African American that's actually done it. And I'm the first one in our Buffalo, Western New York area that's done it. So it's huge. Don't sweep the leg on me.
A moment that's not only about the score, but where skills and dedication align.
To have that perfect day, something that every bowler strives for, but to actually have it happen, it's just unbelievable. I finally got one. I got one.
Now we're going to talk about Trini Ross. She has served as the U.S. Attorney for the Western District. Her time is now ended, but I had a chance to sit down and speak with her about her long career.
Yes, I made history, and that was never lost on me, and I hope I conducted myself in a way that I intended to, which was to show that as the first, I should not be the last. It took 121 years before there was a black woman heading this office in this district. I am a political appointee, but I'm not really a political person. I am a career prosecutor who understands the importance of due process, fairness, victims' rights. I hope I've done the community proud. I believe I have. The toughest thing for me is making decisions that maybe weren't popular, in the sense that maybe I had attorneys who thought we really should do something, and then I had to say no. And I'm a big girl, and I had the big job, and I could say no.
Any regrets?
Not getting everything done, not being here to see the 514 case through to the end.
Seeing you that day that it happened, standing there with law enforcement and knowing that the eyes of the world were looking at Buffalo, and you are the U.S. attorney.
I was the face of the office. It was all organic, or as my daughter says, off the dome. You know, but it was all real. This is what was happening. And I think my legacy is that I was a career prosecutor who became U.S. attorney and made a difference because I knew what to do. And as you know, Claudine, I have been in this office for over 2 decades, handling cases, complex cases, violent case, any type of case that came my way. And I like to say, never messed it up. Never messed up a case because I knew I didn't have the leeway to do that. I work for the government. Under my tenure, things have happened for this district that have never happened before. And I put everything I had into this role, and when it's over, I will rest.
And you're going to retire?
And I'm going to retire.
And enjoy life.
And hopefully enjoy life, yes.
What do you say to Western New York about Black History Month when the name Trini Ross comes up?
Black women could do it. We get it done. We could do anything and everything if given the opportunity. And like I said, it took 121 years for a black woman to have this opportunity, and Claudine, I wasn't gonna blow it. So if they think anything, it's like, give her the challenge and watch her rise to it.
Coming up next on Community, actor Stephen McKinley Henderson.
And we'll take a look at how the Queen City is also celebrating Black History Month.
He says this is death. You can't work on your career, you have to work on your craft.
Actor Stephen McKinley Henderson. We sat down inside Ujima Theater, founded by the late Lorna Hill.
I got to do one of my favorite productions ever. We got to do Antigone.
He attended Lincoln University and the Juilliard School. A 2-time Tony nominee for his roles in Between Riverside and Crazy and Fences, a recipient of the John Houseman Award, and he was inducted into the American Theater Hall of Fame at the Gershwin Theater.
When I looked on the wall and saw the names, Robeson and Ozzie and Ruby and
and now Stephen McKinley Henderson is up there.
Everybody in that group said, "You got the longest name."
There have been nervous times. One when he played a bass player in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom with Whoopi Goldberg.
And I had to start this song, you know.
He's 75 and still working.
I'm working because I look 75. I'm working, I'm playing the old guys.
And he calls it a hero moment to be featured in the movie Civil War.
Use of airstrikes against American citizens. But it was a wonderful thing to do with Kirsten Dunst and Kaylee Spaney.
The journey is the story, and now he's in the Netflix comedy A Man on the Inside with Ted Danson.
Because I was here in Buffalo, they were in LA, and after the first table read, they said, get him out here.
If you're wondering how this famed actor made it from Kansas City, Kansas to Buffalo, it was Studio Arena in 1981, and then a job at UB, a professor emeritus in the theater department, and he's worked with the best, playwright August Wilson.
Did this play Jitney, which we brought through Buffalo.
And on stage in the revival of Wilson's Fences with Denzel Washington and Viola Davis.
Yeah, I got to be going. The opening night with Denzel and Viola, and the first scene of the play is the three of us. To play Denzel's best friend is pretty cool in the first place.
The Academy Award-winning Denzel.
When you're working with Denzel, you have to have the code word. You just say D.
Henderson has been in 6 Oscar-nominated films, including Lincoln.
Working with Spielberg and Daniel Day.
He was Mr. Slade, the president's personal valet.
It was William Slade who he trusted to take the messages and so forth.
Do you feel fulfilled?
Yeah, I gotta say, yeah, you know, and to get to ask to do things at 75, it's a joy. Greatest fulfillment is that my son is doing well. My son works for Spring Hill Productions, which is owned by LeBron James and Maverick Carter, and he is the chief content officer.
A husband, and Henderson has a place in Shea's Entertainment Hall of Fame.
The older I get, the more I realize how important legacy and tradition those who came before us are.
He has a commitment to Black theater.
Underrated and underfunded. I'm interested in making sure that that these theaters and the other African American theaters across the country, a lot of people are trying to make sure that there's some funding.
I know you mentioned you're 75 now, and you're still at it. What more do you want to do?
I want to help these theaters stay functioning, you know.
Is that why Black history is so important?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. History itself. We need to actually be proud of the distance we've come.
And now we're going to take a moment to show you how the city of Buffalo is recognizing Black History Month.
Some good people here.
The legacy, the contributions, the excellence of the African American culture and the African American people who have played such an important role, not just in the city of Buffalo, but across this nation. And we're going to do so by celebrating, acknowledging, and honoring some incredible African American leaders we have here right in City Hall, right here in the city of Buffalo.
Here are the honorees. In arts, Solar Ingram, also known as the community's daughter. In business, the Buffalo Criterion. The Community Preservation Award went to the Michigan Street African American Heritage Corridor.
You can't speak about Black history without mentioning the city of Buffalo. So many important events took place here, and there are so many pioneers that's called this place home. People like Mary Talbert, Reverend Nash, just to name a couple. People who have helped shape this city and laid the groundwork for our honorees today to pick up that mantle and run with it.
The Community Service Award went to Monarch of Infinite Possibilities. For education, Canisius University President Steve Stout. And the Faith-Based Award, Elam Christian Ministries.
Buffalo's tomorrow greatly depends on what we do today. And so it's important that we are focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion so that the fruits of that labor and the fruits of those efforts are born decades well into the future. I want to thank you all for loving Buffalo as much as I do.
The Family Award went to the Pridgeon family. For health and wellness, the Body of Wealth. For law, Judge Craig Hanna. And the Youth Award went to Jason Rowe.
After a very successful professional basketball career overseas, Jason returned to Buffalo and started his own business. Since 2017, he has been the head coach for boys varsity basketball at Bishop Timon High School.
Can't wrap up a show any better than that. The smooth sounds of Will Holton.
And the love cadenza. It is February after all, right?
It's true.
Thanks so much for joining us on commUNITY. We'll see you next month.